Welcome back to the Sam Acho Podcast, a place where we go first, we give space, and we grow hope. We talk about faith, family, football. There's a caveat here you'll hear in a second. And also finances. And today we have a special guest. The caveat is this dude is not a football player. He looks like he could be a football player, but he's a 15-year MLB veteran. His name is Paul Goldschmidt. He is a 7-time All-Star, a National League MVP, a 4-time Gold Glove winner, a 5-time Silver Slugger, a Hank Aaron Award winner with 2,190 career hits, which is 4th among active players, 372 home runs. I would close my eyes when I was trying to hit a ball, so he's done it way more than me, which is 3rd among active players, 1,232 runs batted in, 174 stolen bases. He's also a husband to Amy, father to Jake and Emma, a leader in the community, and a follower of Jesus Christ. With all that being said, Paul, first of all, welcome to the Sam Acho Podcast.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. This is great.
Yes. All right. So that was a big, long intro, but if you were going to introduce yourself, how would Paul Goldschmidt introduce himself? What do you want people to know about you the most?
I'd probably leave out all those baseball stats. I mean, they're great. I'm really, I've worked really hard and really proud of those, but it's definitely, that's not who I am. It just is what I've been able to do, and with the, help of a lot of other people. But, ultimately, I'm glad you said it. A follower of Jesus is ultimately who I am, and that's what my identity is. And, I got to be reminded of that. So it's good to hear that and just remember, why I'm here. And then, right after that is my family, try and be the best husband I can to my wife, Amy, and my 2 kids who are 8 and 10 years old. As just takes so much effort and work, but we love them so much, our kids, and just the relationships. I mean, that's what I think about my whole life. Even in baseball, all this stuff is amazing, but if someone's going to ask, what's your legacy? It's going to be my relationships that I've built in the game, the people that have impacted me or that hopefully I've impacted, and just those experiences that I'll remember and treasure forever.
That's so good. So you said, leave out all the stats. Let's go to relationships.
Well, I mean, I love them. I mean, hearing that, can't help but smile. I don't know if you're this way, but I mean, I'm so hard on myself that I think a lot of times I forget that there's been so much greatness in the game and great things that I've accomplished. I don't know how much people know about my story, but I never thought I would probably even get to the big leagues. I remember you and I, when we first talked, you were just telling how even you getting to college at the University of Texas was kind of like a crazy happenstance that came out of nowhere. And in a little bit different way, I was drafted in the 8th round, which is really amazing, but it's not first round like we hear about so many guys. And I didn't know what life was going to hold, but I just loved playing baseball and just kept playing. Just to get to the big leagues was such a dream. So now 15 years later, to still be playing and to have been able to accomplish all those things, those were never the goal. I think for me was always, and still is, just do my best every single day and to give my effort, and let's see where that takes me. If it takes me to junior high baseball, well, at least I had fun doing it. But I've just tried to keep that same attitude. Yeah, it's really fun to play. I enjoy the competition. I mostly enjoy the camaraderie and the relationships, probably more than anything. That's, as my career was kind of getting towards its end, what I'll probably miss more than anything, just hanging out with the guys and just having fun. And so I'm just thankful to be able to play that. But yeah, it's also a good reminder that there's been a lot of success in there too, because unfortunately we dwell on those failures.
What was that journey like? Because I want to get to how we met. Before how we met, your journey to the big leagues, what is your story?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Texas like you, and I grew up in Houston and, played baseball and all sorts of sports. I think I'd like to make sure people know that. I know now so many kids want to specialize. And when I've done sports camps and talked to sports teams, I try to encourage parents and kids to play as many sports as you can. All the research is showing that is the best for growth, especially long-term, mentally, physically, emotionally. And I was one of those kids, 2 younger brothers, and all we did was play sports. We played football, basketball, hockey, baseball. But I loved baseball. And as I got into high school, started getting recruited to colleges and, got an opportunity to play at Texas State University, went there for 3 years, had a great experience, and then got drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks in the 8th round. And just I was really naive, but I loved playing baseball. And I just was like, all right, let's go see what's going to happen. And baseball and like some of these other sports is the minor league. So first went to Missoula, Montana, and just you're making absolutely no money, but you're in it with all these other guys, and it's almost like an extension of college where you're not going to class. And then played pretty well. The next year got to go to Visalia, California, which was a step up. And then in 2011 went to Double A, which was in Mobile, Alabama. And that year I played really well, probably the best year I had maybe of my life, and got called up to the big leagues in 2011. So it was just an absolute dream come true. And we were right in the playoff race with the Diamondbacks, and we ended up making the playoffs my first year, and just such a surreal moment just to get to experience that. And then, when you talk about those numbers or the accomplishments, it's kind of funny. It's like, oh, I just want to get to the big leagues. And then you're there, and it's like, now it changes, like, oh, now I got to stay, or now I want to stay. So it's like, no matter what you accomplish, there's always that next thing. But fortunately, I was surrounded by a lot of great coaches and people, and there's definitely a lot of ups and downs. I'm a lot of failure, especially in baseball, and happy to talk about any of that. But that's kind of the short version, and played there for 7 years, loved it, and then got traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. Played there for 6 years, got an opportunity to play in the playoffs a few times with both those teams. And last year I was with the Yankees, and now this year just kind of waiting to see where I'm going to end up, and hopefully get an opportunity to play this year, and maybe continue on after that.
You talked about some of the adversity. I want to go back to being traded. What was that like what was that like being traded?
Yeah, there was a lot more adversity. That was kind of it was weird because I was all I knew with Arizona. I will say I was fortunate in that I kind of had a little heads up that it was coming. It wasn't like out of the blue, and it wasn't in the middle of the season, like the family aspect of moving your wife and kids like halfway across the country where you'd live someplace. So that was really nice. It happened in December for baseball season, is like the downtime. So it was definitely an adjustment, but it was a really great opportunity. The Cardinals are a great organization. And so going there was exciting. There was definitely like a few days where I was like, man, what's going on? And, whatever the fear of the unknown or any of those things like that. But I think having that time to kind of wrap my head around it, and not having just to like pick up and leave right away, was really huge, where we kind of got that time to emotionally work through it. There's a lot of players that get traded in the next day, or in football the next week, or like playing for a new team. And, that's tough to just process it, and it's out of your control. But for me, fortunately, it didn't happen like that. So, but there is baseball in general, there's a lot of failure, compared to a lot of sports. And I think for me, even at a young age in high school or junior high, or that I was never the best player on the team. And
Hold on. I got to pause you there. You've played 15 years. You played for 3 amazing franchises. You're literally top 5 active among a lot of stats, yet you weren't the best player on your team. Take me back there. Like, what was good? Like, because I think people might need to hear some of this too. Right now, I might have a similar-ish story, but I want people to know, how was it like, and what was it like? Explain.
Well, growing up in Texas, number one, there's a lot of competitive athletes in football and basketball and baseball, especially. They're huge sports. So there's a lot of really good players, but I also never really thought about it at the time. Like, I was just a kid, and I was just playing baseball or playing football or basketball, and we just were out having fun. We were very competitive, and a lot of credit goes to my parents for making like having fun and doing things the right way, being a good teammate and hustling, and kind of these like skills that often get overlooked were like really the top priorities. And so a lot of credit goes to my mom and dad for kind of instilling those. But the goal was not ever to be the best as a kid. You would it was more about do the best you can do. And so, in 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, but you gave your best effort. Like, I can remember my dad saying, hey, like, I really loved how you hustled right there. I know, you didn't get a hit, but that was like really good effort. He was really big on that. You were a really good teammate. And then there was maybe some games where I had some homers or something. He's like, hey, why didn't you hustle there? Or why didn't you do this? And so he was just like really instilling those like personal values that sports can teach you at a young age. As a kid, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, you don't really understand. You're out there competing. And we did. We competed at a high level, won the state championship my senior year in high school at the Woodlands High School. I mean, it was very, very competitive. You know, you go to college. I mean, there's really competitive. So I'm not saying we're competitive, but you know, I knew I was loved by my parents, and I knew that my identity was safe, and I had the freedom to go out there and give it everything I have. Yeah, I don't know. I would just try to do the best I can. I think that's still the thing now. I didn't know, I didn't want to set a limit as like, oh, I can't be this good or I have to be this good or, I'm still am really on the mental side of just giving it everything I have, playing as hard as I can, and then, kind of letting the results be there. And I think that's given me a chance to be successful. There was obviously it was a lot different. There's the comparison that is happening now for kids is way different with social media and all that stuff. I don't know if it's happening I'm sure it's happening in youth football, but like I kind of joke, there was no stats when we were playing youth sports. Like it was somebody's dad would like keep the stats and maybe post them, but like, or like share them. But now there's like, it is a challenge for parents and for kids, and there was no social media, and so now it's like a lot of these stats are out there for kids at 10 years old, 11, probably 8 years old, 6 years old. I don't know. People are getting competitive, and like, we just didn't have to deal with that. We were very competitive of trying to win the game, but it was almost easier on us now, where I think parents and kids now, um, need to be very aware of kind of the challenges and pitfalls that are happening around youth sports, and try to, I'll just say, fight them off as much as possible, because they can be detrimental to development and, yeah, just make sports not as fun.
Mm. What has that been like for you? I know that you spend some time with your kids. I don't know if you're coaching them or if you're just playing with them in the backyard. I know we've been on a call a while ago and there was some, stuff. What is it like for you as a dad, um, as a guy who plays baseball, travels a lot, but also as a father? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think early on, I just realized like the schedule that I have compared to like your normal job is just different. But I think the challenges and the opportunities are very similar. So like our family meals together, our breakfast, where most families are trying to eat dinner together once, the mom or dad or whoever, or both of them are getting home from work and school's over. So that was just something that our family has tried to adapt, is like, we can't, there's similarities and there's differences, and how do we adapt it? So when I'm home and I'm away from the field, for me, one of my biggest like protections I put on myself is I try to do zero baseball when I'm away from the field. So as soon as I leave and I come home, it's like as much as I can shutting off from baseball. And now I'm just like a dad or a husband, and I'm trying not to think about it. I'm not perfect, so sometimes I fall in that trap. But like for me, if I gotta just like stay late or go early to the field, then I'll do that. And then, but I'm trying to like not be here like watching video or studying or practicing, kind of trying to separate those two so that I can be fully present and engaged where I'm at. But the biggest thing I think is just adapting our schedule, and, we've traveled with our kids a lot so that we can be together as a family. I think that's a big thing. We've had an amazing opportunity to do that, which not all families have, whether that's just my wife being willing to do it, and, the sport of baseball and the teams kind of allowing the kids and family to be around. Even when they were young, we would be gone for a week, and they would probably come to, 3 or 4 out of the 7 days I was gone. And even if they didn't go to the game at night, at least we could like get up in the hotel and have breakfast and go kind of explore these cities. And so we've been very intentional about making sure that time is spent together and not being apart. I've also, at least the first, 14 out of the 15 years of my career, I've only played in two cities. So we weren't moving around, where some guys are moving around, bouncing around in different teams. It makes it a lot harder. It's been, every situation's unique, but just trying to find what works for us.
So this is so good. On this podcast, we talk about family. So I'd love to hear, I haven't heard this story before, how you and your wife met. How did y'all meet? What's the story? Yeah.
Yes, is great. I mean, we met at Texas State. She actually played golf there. She was on the golf team, and I was on the baseball team. And we actually had a 4 of our 5 classes together. And the one class we didn't have together, she had with my roommate, and they sat next to each other. And so they kind of became friends. And, eventually we became friends. And I mean, I don't know if I asked her out or we were just hanging out or whatever, but eventually we started dating. And yeah, just the rest is history. And, dated throughout college. And then after I left after my junior year to go play baseball, and she went back to finish her senior year, and we got engaged and got married about a year later. So pretty simple story, but um, thankful. And you look back about how God's got his hand on your life. I mean, not that I didn't know it at the time, but like most kids in high school, you'd love to go play at the number one school in the country and have all the great things and by the best school. And like a lot of those big schools, none of those big schools offered me a scholarship. And so Texas State's called, which is just which is an amazing school, but just a mid-major baseball program, and not a team that's consistently in the top 10 and winning national titles. But I went there, and for some reason, and I was not a follower of Jesus at the time, or didn't know that he was looking after me and investing in my life, but just left campus after like the quickest visit and was like, Dad, I'm gonna go to Texas State. And then I ended up meeting my wife there, and my whole life has changed, and so many of my best friends. So it's just amazing. I had the best time at Texas State, and of course meeting Amy there, and us, getting married, and so many of our close friends met there, that a place that I didn't even know existed until they called me and wanted me to come visit.
Okay, so I got to pause real quick. You said you weren't a follower of Jesus then. I want to hear, when did you become a follower of Jesus? What's that story?
I mean, the quick story is I actually got to the major leagues, and I was playing baseball. I mean, just playing, of course. And some of the teammates were doing a Bible study in the off season with their wives. It was like a couples Bible study, and they invited us to go. And the truth is, I didn't want to go. I was like, I don't, God's whatever. He's doing whatever. That's just not for me. And my wife's like, no, we're gonna go. And so we go, and I'll be honest. I mean, in the first couple of years, we were going every once a week, and the people were amazing. I love those guys, and the guys leading the chapel. But I was kind of like, man, I don't know about this. But honestly, over time, I was like, maybe this isn't. Maybe this is true. Maybe this is legit. And I just kind of started asking questions to them, and like, hey, what does the Bible say about this or this? And started to just like read the Bible. And but I got to say, what was really kind of made me believe was the people there. There was not like one line of scripture. I didn't have like some aha moment. Like I feel like you hear a lot of people's testimonies like right now, and this was happening. It wasn't that. It's like they were very, very real people, and I could feel like what I didn't know, but like the Holy Spirit was like really, and scripture was like they were really trying their best to live the way Jesus wanted them to live, and to be servant leaders, and to care and love their neighbor. And that was like infectious almost. It's like, man, this is the way that I want to live. I didn't know that it was because of that was the teachings of Jesus. And they were also really honest about, mistakes they were making, and that they weren't perfect and they needed forgiveness. And that was, can't think of a better word than just like attractive, as far as like really real. They was real. Their faith was real. How they felt were real. The mistakes they made were real. The love they had for others, and caring and trying to be, um, I'll say like good humans, but probably the realistic thing would be like a real follower of Jesus as best they could, even though we're all making mistakes consistently, and we're all imperfect. And so like once that was like felt, it was just, to me, it's like, man, it really just like opened me up to like, okay, well, where's this coming from? And then they obviously were, sharing God's word and the scripture. And, after probably another some time of me doing my, I'll call it research and asking more questions, eventually just got to the point where I was like, man, I can't, for me, I can't deny this truth anymore. And I didn't really know what that meant, as probably most people don't, like really early in their faith, but then just have spent years trying to learn more about God and about Jesus, and see what he has for my life, and try to live it out the best I can, while still asking for forgiveness all the time, I guess, continually.
So in that journey, what have you learned?
Man, we don't have enough time for that, but I think number one was like God's got a purpose for this whole universe, and for each of us individually. I mean, I think that in my prayer life now is kind of the thing that, like, as I pray, I'm like, man, there's 6, 7 billion people in this world, and there's a God out there who will take the time to just listen to my words and my worries and my requests, and care so deeply about me. I mean, that's the thing that's kind of shocking. If I was like in charge of this universe, what's one little person over here? But that's not the God that the Bible says is there with Jesus, and he came down and died for us and served us and sacrificed for us. And you think about the love that you'd have to do that for someone, that's just so amazing. And just trying to live that out and to be faithful to that and continue to learn and grow.
That's so good. Well, speaking of being real, we have a mutual friend named Max who kind of connected us, but I'd love to hear your version. How did we get connected? Like from your perspective, I can share mine too after.
uh yeah, like you said, our buddy Max somehow ran into both of us, and it's like, man, you guys got to meet while you were playing football for the Cardinals and eventually the Bears, and right, the Bears. I think he
Yep, that's
connected
right.
us in Chicago one time. We all met up when I was there playing, and you were in training camp, and just went to dinner. That's what I remember is meeting you guys at dinner, and man, just the conversation was just flowing so smoothly, and just so many overlapping and similar stories and feelings and thoughts about the world. And so just a fun night. And I remember you had to leave early to get back in time for curfew. And I was like, man, that stinks that I got curfew. So yeah, just this a quick story.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I actually forgot about that part, but I do remember. Well, and now that you said, it, I remember. I remember back in Arizona, um, and we didn't meet in person. You and I didn't, but I was hanging out with Max. Max is a guy who I met at like a sushi bar somewhere back in 2011. I think I randomly pulled up to this sushi spot, and there was this guy sitting next to me, kind of the short white guy, right? Not an athlete, big athlete looking guy. And I think I had my Bible out oh, no, I didn't have I prayed for the meal. I was just sitting by myself. I prayed for the food. No, I was with a friend. This is all coming back to me now. I was with a friend and I prayed for our meal and that friend and went to the restroom or something. And this random guy at the bar was like, hey man, like, how did you learn about God? And I was like, who are you? And what are you talking? And I'm thinking too, because I just signed with the Cardinals. So I'm thinking, maybe this guy had seen an interview I did on TV or maybe something. And I was like, he said, how did you find God? And I was like, well, I don't think I found God. I think God found me. And he was like, man, that's like the third time I've heard that, right? And so like we have this mini combo. And the other guy, I think he had come back and then he was leaving or something. I don't know what. And then essentially Max and I connected and we started this friendship. And then Max knew you. And then Max was kind of like, I think he had mentioned, all I remember is one of the combos that we had and you being like, us having a convo about being bold about our faith, like not only in the clubhouse, but also in the locker room. We had that convo, and then fast forward, we still hadn't connected. Then in Chicago that day, here's why I didn't remember, but now I do. So we were in the middle of training camp,
Mhm.
and y'all had a game somewhere. And honestly, I don't share this a lot, but I was actually going. We had an off day. I was actually coming from a therapy session, dude. Like I started going to counseling because like life was lifing, to be honest, right? Like, oh, football, and I saw this big contract, and on the outside things looked great, but on the inside, I was like your boy was struggling. And so we connected for that little bit, but I still had to get back for curfew because we had to drive back to training camp. Um, and I do remember that. I just remember like hearing about you, hearing about Max talk about you, either us talking, texting, whatever, and then meeting you and be like, oh yeah, this guy's the real deal. But I do want to go back to the question that maybe Max asked both of us or that we asked is, how do you, what do you do about your faith in the clubhouse?
I mean, it's just like anywhere in life. To me, the clubhouse isn't any different. Those are just like my coworkers. So I'm definitely a lot. I mean, I became an adult not wanting or knowing anything about God or Jesus and not wanting to know. So I had a lot of people that maybe shoved their opinions or tried to shove their opinions down my throat. So I'm very conscious about not going up to someone and being like, hey, do you know Jesus? You could really use him in your life. I know other people are more forward than me, but my approach is different because if someone or when people did that to me or if someone did to me, I would have just like shut down. I am for me, I really want to care about them as people and get to know them and their family. And I'm not hiding my faith. And obviously I'd love for everyone to know Jesus, but I'm not seeing someone like, oh man, here's an opportunity to like go like save them. I'm just like, I want to get to know them and I want to know them as people. And it's very beneficial on the personal level and it's beneficial as a teammate so that I can do it. That, we can have those conversations about baseball, or if it's someone that's not in baseball, if it's a friend or another one down the street, it's like, I want to get to know them as people, but I think people definitely know where my faith is, and I'm happy to have those conversations and will if they come up. But I'm very, I'm a lot more hands off. And I think, like I said, the way I came to know Jesus is people just like loved me and cared about me. I mean, I was there for 2 or 3 years in a Bible study, not believing in Jesus and God, and nobody was judging me or doing this. And there's definitely things in my life I was doing at that time that I'm not trying not to do now or not doing now. And they were not judging about that. So obviously the way that I became a follower of Jesus, I'm kind of using the same way. And those people just like really loved me and were very open and honest and cared about me, not because they wanted to try to change my views on God. And, eventually, of course, that, came up in conversations. So I think that answers the question. Like, I'm not hiding my faith, but I want to just like try to love people and hopefully eventually, of course, I'd love for everyone to place their faith in Jesus based on the word of God, what that says, but that's not my job to save people either. So I hope that answers it.
Oh, that's so good. All
But
right, so
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go.
Now, I was going to look at some of the questions because usually I got a guy helping me ask questions. You know what I mean? Yeah. So another question I have is about what's next. So before we hit record, you had mentioned, man, I've played 15 years and I want to play more, but also there is a thought of, even if you play another 1, 2, 5 years, 7 years, what would be next for Paul Goldschmidt?
I mean, I've been thinking about this for a while, not just like, oh, my career's over. I think I always like knew there's going to be something after baseball, and I never knew how long my career was going to last. So I was always preparing for it. I don't know specifically what that looks like. I would love to stay in the game a little bit. I would love to be there to mentor younger players and to help out, a baseball team or an organization, just because so many people have poured into me. None of my success, and I'm not just trying to be humble, like, this is just the truth. I was surrounded by some amazing people. When I was a rookie, the veterans helped me out so much, and I could just go on and on. The coaches I had were amazing. They sped up that learning curve, and just so I would love to be able to share everything that was taught to me and all my experiences to help other people. I get a little bit of opportunity now as a veteran player to do that, and I honestly, I love it. I love being able to kind of help others and see their success and help the team. So I'd love to stay in the game in uh some position like that. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like or if it's going to come about, if it'll be right away or if it'll be years down the road, if it'll be at the professional level or at the amateur level or just something I'm doing for fun with local players that live around here. So I'd love to do that. I got two younger brothers and I feel like I always love that mentorship or kind of like the older brother type relationship. So, I mean, preparing for that, you heard me talk a little bit more and a little bit earlier about like youth sports and just, I think we all know the way youth sports are going is a very dangerous way. And I think most kids and parents and families and all or most of, if not all the research is just showing how scary sports and how detrimental it can be if it's done the wrong way. And unfortunately, it's going more and more that way. So if there's opportunities to help people or help kids out in that way, that's something I'm definitely interested in because I had just such an amazing experience growing up as a kid. Some bad coaches, but a lot of really good ones. But mostly just loved playing sports. And I think sports are just a great avenue to learn all these life lessons, whether it's dealing with failure, unfair circumstances, being a good teammate, hard work, winning and losing, just all these things that just like teach you these life lessons and life skills. And if kids are not getting taught that at a young age, or they're quitting sports because of the pressure or the cost, or, parent not having that opportunity, I think it's hurting too many kids. So those are really the two avenues that I could see myself going into. I'd love to do something where I'm sharing the gospel as well, but is it through sports? I mean, for me, sports has been in there. So that's how I came to know Jesus. Is do those opportunities happen as you're just meeting people? D- You know, there could be something else that I have no idea and would definitely be praying and trying, hopefully hearing from God that where he's kind of going to direct my life. But I've thought about it. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but those are kind of the 2 to 3, or whether those are all roped into one, kind of ideas that I've had.
That's so good. I think about just the little that we've been in, person connected, but known you from afar for, almost 15 years. And then know people who know you. And it's just like this idea of consistency. Consistency. Max, I was talking to our mutual friend. He talked about a Bible study that y'all will do together for years, like daily, going through the Word of God for not days, years. And then listening to you talk about your dad and how those little things about hustle and effort, and then hearing about going to Texas State and not Oklahoma or Texas or any, SEC, Alabama, whatever, UCLA, and like God did it. And so I couldn't imagine what he's going to do with whatever is next.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, consistency, it's funny you brought that up because we hadn't talked about it, but that'd probably be the one word that I've based my baseball career on. Consistency. That I've tried to be consistent with everything I do, and, to a fault probably in my life with other things. I was just like a very routine oriented and try to do that. But yeah, that's the fact that you brought that up is the word that I use if people are going to say like, what's one word or what's the biggest thing that's helped you? I mean, consistency is what I've tried to base my career on. And maybe some guys have had some more ups, are more talented, but if I could be more consistent to be on the field, to mentally, maybe when I'm in a tough spot or struggling, to just stay consistent with that mindset, to stay positive, just keep my confidence up, that, that can allow that success, and it's worked for me.
I do have one more question before I let you go, because you talked about baseball and some of the ups and downs, right? Football, I feel like we could we're in, we're out, boom. Baseball, it's like y'all might be 0 for 50. And I'm like, dude, how do y'all, how do you get out of a slump?
Well, I mean, I love the mental part of the game. And so I love, like, I could talk about if you're going to ask me like where I want my hands, my swing and all that stuff, like, that's just not me. I love the competition. I love the mental part. I think that's been a big strength of my game, and I work on it a lot. I've had mental coaches, or I read a lot of books about mental performance and mental training. So it's not just something that just came with like easy. Again, why sports are amazing. Like there's times I remember in high school or junior high, man, just being like so nervous or being so scared, or failing, or just like not letting it. And so like realizing the importance of the mental part of the game and like really practicing it. And developing those skills over years or decades. So I love it. So as far as like a slump, I mean, I think most guys don't really use that word. I wouldn't really I feel like a slump is like, man, what's, like, it's almost like out of your control. It's like, oh man, everything's just going wrong. That's what, when I hear the word slump, is like, I can't do anything right. And like, that's such like, in my mind, more of a defeated mindset. Like you're almost like feeling sorry for yourself. I say you definitely go through rough stretches where you're not performing, but it's so part of baseball, and it's almost like you just have to keep going. And so for me, as far as like the consistency you're doing with it, a big thing that I've always focused on is like the things I can control. So my preparation every day, my work ethic, my attitude, how I am as a teammate. And so if I was 0 for 50, which I probably have gotten close to that, I can't show up that day and be like, oh, I'm 0 for 50, like, and then that change everything. It's like, that's already done. That's in the past. I don't know what's going to happen today or the future. And so it's like, all right, what can I control? And so it's like, all right, as I am getting ready for the day, I'm just really focused on being very, very present in what each swing I'm taking in the batting cage, each ground ball I'm taking, not trying to like even get ahead about the game. And so it happens all the time where I'm sure like you guys, it's late in the game and you've had a bad game. You're not, for you on defense, like whatever, you're not getting to the quarterback, or they keep dominating you. It's like, no, like I'm just going to win this play. For us, it's like, I'm just going to win this pitch. I might be 0 for 4. I got an opportunity here, my 5th at bat. Like, this is the time. And just almost like talking to myself, just keep saying like, no, this is the time. This is the time. And almost like tricking your brain. I tell myself like anyone can hit when they feel good. It's like the real great players got to hit when they feel terrible. because there's just days where you feel terrible. So I'm just like pumping myself up, or, all right, my swing feels terrible. I'm not seeing the ball. This pitcher, he owns me, whatever it is. And like, I'm on deck as I'm getting, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to outcompete this guy. That's another thing I love. Like, I'm just going to outcompete this guy this at bat. I don't care what happens, but I'm going to compete harder than he does. And if I do that, then it's successful. And so it's almost like, right, tricking your brain from the results to, I don't really like to use the word, but the process, but that's kind of the hot buzz word. And so for me, it's just like what I can control. Getting a big pressure moment, your brain starts to go, it's like, man, oh, what if I get a hit here? What if he throws this pitch? What if this happens? Can we win the game? Oh no, if I don't get a hit, we lose the game. It's like, I just try to stop that. Once I notice, it's like, no, look, okay, what can I control? For me, like when I'm in the box is like my timing and like seeing the ball. So then it's like, all right, timing, see the ball. And I'll just be talking to myself. They put a pitch clock on baseball the last couple of years, which has been amazing to speed up the games and I think for the fans. But sometimes as a player, you're like, man, I just need a little extra time. You guys are used to it, I guess, in football, in basketball with the shot clock and all that. But it was like, I was just trying to have those conversations. That's what's kind of going on between the pitches. And, that's definitely relatable to sports and everything else, life, a job. It's like, just when I talk to kids, it's like, that's what, like, too many times, that's where social media is like, can be so toxic because you're focusing on things that are out of your control. Like when I was in the minor leagues, I didn't even know who was ahead of me. Like that wasn't even, I didn't care. I was just so hyper focused on like what I can control. How can I help my team in AA win this game? How can I get better today? How can I outcompete this pitcher? How can I do that? And then they called me like, hey, you're going to the big leagues. And like, that wasn't even on my radar. I know people will say that's a lie. It's not a lie. I can guarantee you that I was not thinking about getting called up to the big leagues. And I think it's so easy to be distracted by things out of your control or things in the future. And it's very tempting. I still deal with it. Like, of course I want to win the World Series for us, but it's almost like working backwards. Like, what can I control? That's what it comes. What can I control right now? How can I have the best day I can today? And if I do that right now, and then 6 months from now or 8 months from now, when the baseball season's going on in the World Series, like that, the results should show up.
That sounds like a great adage for life as well, not just baseball.
Yeah. I mean, that's why sports, I mean, they're so similar. I mean, sports in general, but life. And that's why on the youth side, I just hate that it's getting taken away from those life lessons. And there's so much emphasis on the performance at a young age. Look, I'm very, very competitive. I played at the highest level of professional, and even as an amateur, like in Texas, like you, like those games in high school were a huge deal. The whole town, like this was very competitive. I'm not coming from, hey, we don't need to compete, but below that, and just like people want to have success at their jobs or whatever they're doing, their hobbies, that is it. But the underlying factors that, number one, lead to success, but also really are most importantly in life, like those, the priorities are there. But that's why sports are so great, because if you can learn those at a young age, they're going to carry on to when your sports career ends, whether that's 12 years old or 30 something years old or later, like those lessons continue on for life. But it's hard to teach like an 8-year-old something else that's not sports if they love sports. I mean, yeah, there's other ways, like with music. Of course, these all carry over. If your kid loves music or whatever it might be, drawing, like you got to work at it and you got to practice and all these, it's going to be hard and you're dealing with failure. So like, it doesn't have to be sports, but sports for a lot of kids are a lot of kids enjoy it. And so then you can teach those lessons without the kids even realizing it. But it's not the only way.
All right. So before I let you go, because I'm a coach, I coach my kids now. I played 9 years NFL. I'm not playing anymore, but now I'm coaching my son in basketball, right? I'll coach their flag football teams at times. What would you tell youth coaches in this area, in this space, in the way that things are going? What if you had one message to share with people who are coaching, what would you tell them?
Oh, I'm not an expert at this. I haven't done it, but I think we got to realize, like, I'd say try to think long term, not short term. And so, like, what's best? And also, like, with that, like, what's best for the kid overall, not what's best, or the kids overall, not like what's best for my team, because could be two competing things. To win the league or the tournament might be different than developing these life skills. And so like the more long term we can think, and the more we can think of like what's best for these kids, like what's the goal for that's what, as a parent, like that's maybe the question that the coach or the organization, like what's your overarching goal? Is it to make the best 10-year-old flag football team? Okay, well, at least I know like that's what I'm getting into. Or is it to develop these kids to be the best human beings they can as they grow up into their teenage years and young adult years?
You were talking about youth sports and coaches and what to tell coaches. So I really want to know that, but yeah, just like if you had one message to tell to a youth coach.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the expert at this. I'm going through it right now as a parent, but I think understanding and balancing like what's the overall most important thing we're trying to accomplish. Is it to win the league or win the tournament, or is it to develop these kids into the best human beings they can be? And if one program might have a different value or different importance on one of those, and so balancing the long term versus the short term, because yeah, you can make players really great and win this tournament short term in a way, but that's going to be, I mean, all the research shows anyone you talk to is going to be detrimental long term. And so sometimes dealing with failure, for me, I think one of the biggest things is playing multiple sports is one of the great things you can do to develop athletes. And so, yeah, you're not going to be as good at football or baseball if you're playing 3 or 4 sports year round. But by the time you get to high school and maybe even college, you're going to be a way better athlete, or probably before that. And so, but that's really hard when some of these programs are being judged on what the stats are. And of course, people are competitive. So it's really hard to balance the long versus short term, but it's another good value we all got to try to learn in life. And, you know, at the younger ages, of course, I mean, even now, it's like you want to have fun. I would make sure that it's fun. And there's going to come a time where sports are a lot of hard work, and you're going to have to choose between going to hang with your friends or going to the gym to work out. I'm sure you had to make that choice a lot. And you'll do it if you love the sport. If you love football, you'll easily sacrifice and you'll go to the gym and you'll get beat up in practice. I know how horrible football practice is. The games are probably fun. The other 6 days are probably miserable. But if you don't love it, you're gonna quit and you're not gonna go to practice. And so I think helping to instill the fun and the love at a young age will make it, when it does become more, when you have to sacrifice, kids will be more willing to do that. And yeah, hopefully it's hard. It's a weird, hard landscape. I don't have the answers, but it does seem like as much as it's changed in the last 20 years, there's a lot of professional athletes now that are speaking out of some of the things that they've seen that can hopefully be changed for the better. And there's some things that have been really good with youth sports as well. So it's not all bad, but I think it's going to hopefully move in a positive direction. But the more you're focusing on the overall, or at least knowing like what the team you're on is most important, then that's going to guide everything. And hopefully it's the development of sports skills, but the whole human being, so that these kids are prepared for life as they grow up. That would be the goal that I'd be looking for with my kids, at least, and balancing those two. You want them to play and be competitive and have fun and win. Who doesn't want to win? But when you're thinking long term, I want them to be the best as they become teenagers and young adults. I'm not necessarily needing them to be the best 8 to 10, 12-year-old, because usually the best at the younger age are not the best at the older age.
Sheesh. Hey, and the cool thing is that this message is coming from a guy who's played at the highest level. Like from guys because I resonate with what you're saying, right? Listen to JJ Watt talk. Like these are players who have played at the highest level, and they're reminding us as parents, or even some of the people who are trying to specialize, dude, play as many sports as you can, have as much fun as you can, compete as hard as you can, and the results will take care of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think the more guys are speaking out, it's hard. 99.9% of parents are trying to do what's best for their kids. And when you see other kids, your kid may love football, and you see other kids that are better, you want to like, oh, well, if we specialize, we can get them better and they will compete and win more. Like everyone's, for the most part, coming from a good spot of wanting to do what's best for their kids and for their family. But it's hard if you haven't been through it, and, it's even hard for us that have been through it to see our kids struggle and be like, "No, this is a good thing. Struggle is good." Like, it's hard. I don't wanna struggle. I don't wanna fail. Definitely don't wanna see my kids fail. I think that I'm about to as soon as we get off, I'm gonna talk to some Little League baseball players, and that's my number one message is, like, failure is good. That's so hard for us as human beings, but, like, the more you fail, that's how you get better, and so even though I don't wanna do it personally, I don't want my kids to do it. The more that it happens, the better you learn how to deal with it, within reason, and it actually helps you as you get older, and when you're playing and you fail, you just get back up. There's gonna be failure, and, it's good.
That's so good, man. Well, Paul, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your time and joining the Sam Acho Podcast. I'm glad to know you. And for those who are still watching, we cannot wait to watch you play. And also, I can't wait to connect with you again soon.
Alright, thanks, man. This has been great.
Awesome. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks.